Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Check Service Industry Podcast. I am Reyshan Parker, and if you have not yet, please go watch my television series Beyond the Check about chef-owned and operated restaurants. They're fantastic chefs, and you get to see a lot of amazing food that I got to eat, so that was fun. I have a fantastic guest today. She is an entrepreneur for more than 20 years. She's coached upwards of 3,000 people and delivered presentations for tens of thousands of people. She's helped people with the possibility to see new possibilities for themselves in their lives. And her clients have called her personal change chef, which I think is how I got her on the show today. Her undergrad degree was in human performance improvement, and her graduate degree was based in the science of human flourishing. Very curious. She's appeared in articles for Forbes. She's been on the Today Show. She's the author of Travels of the Heart, Developing Your Inner Leader, and she has her own podcast, Unyielded, Thriving No Matter What. Ladies and gentlemen, Bobbi Kahler. Bobbi Kahler.
Hey there, how are you doing?
Good. Hi, Bobbi. Where are you coming to me from today?
Today, I am in Arkansas.
You're in Arkansas?
Yeah,
nice.
We split our time between Arkansas and Colorado. So today it's Arkansas.
Oh, well, lucky you.
Yeah.
Is it more humid in Arkansas and dry in Colorado?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah?
I mean, because in Colorado, we live way up in the high country. So at 9,000 feet, it is extremely dry. Extremely dry.
Oh, yeah. That's why the winter times are bearable. Because
that's right.
No humidity.
That's absolutely right. We'll be heading back soon to take advantage of ski season.
I've never spent any time in Arkansas. Does it get cold in Arkansas?
Not well compared to Colorado. Really? No, I mean it gets maybe in the 20s. It might get in the teens a couple times here and there, but by and large, no. And it's nothing compared to in Grand Lake where we live in Colorado. You wake up in the wintertime and it's 25 degrees below zero, so everything else is warm compared to that. Yeah, it's fun.
See, in Savannah, it's so humid when it gets down to like 25. It feels like it's negative 25, but that's just because it goes to your bones.
That's right. But it chills you at that.
Mm-hmm. My sister was born in Colorado, and so we lived there. And I remember it being not like it was cold and it would snow, but like it wasn't freezing.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It doesn't chill you in the same way. I lived in Chicago for many years, and in Chicago, when it gets to be about 40. You're like, my God, is it cold? And it's because of the wind and the humidity.
And the lake effect and the miserable, no.
Yeah.
Chicago in the wintertime, not fun. No,
not fun.
The first word of advice from Bobbi, don't Chicago in the wintertime. Yeah. So anyways, you're a life chef. Or people at least call you a life chef because you cook up life?
Well, it's a personal change chef. And it came about, it was actually a former colleague of mine, and he just started calling me that. And I'm like, dude, why are you calling me that? And he's like, because it's what you do as a coach. He said, you take people, you help them discover the ingredients they have inside of them. And then, what do we need to add to the dish? And they come up with these great recipes. And he knows that I love to cook. So it was like, I think it was kind of a play on words there. So yeah, it kind of stuck. And other people started calling me that. And I'm like, okay.
Did you happen to be making him dinner at the time?
No. Not even.
It just worked out. It just
worked out. Yeah.
So how did you get into this entire industry always is very curious to me. How did you become a change coach? Like how does that happen? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. There are a lot of different paths. A lot of different paths to it. I will say that I think what made me fall in love with coaching was an experience I had way back in high school. Because I grew up when I was like 5 or 6 years old, I was diagnosed by a speech pathologist with catastrophic speech problems. So when you grow up and I didn't like speaking in public, not a big surprise because people would make fun of me. And those days, did you have those days in school where y'all had to read out loud and like you'd go around the room and everyone had to read a paragraph? Hated those days. And I'd always be
I
Yeah.
was a hand raiser. I was like, I
Ah,
got it. I'll read.
I got it. I got it. And, I had to read whatever. So when I was in high school, I decided, man, I've got to get over this fear of speaking in public, even though I still had speech problems. And I thought, well, I'm going to take a speech class. And Mr. Jordan was my teacher. And as luck would have it, he was also the coach for the speech and debate team. In our high school, our speech and debate team, they were good. Like they went to nationals and that type of thing. And I gave my very first speech, and it was terrible. I'm not being hard on myself. It was legitimately a train wreck.
The
And I
speech
finished
itself, or just your voice shaking the whole time?
both. And I was talking so fast. It was supposed to be an 8-minute speech. And when I practiced it at home, it was 8 minutes. And I think I finished it in like 5 minutes and 20 seconds. It wasn't, I didn't forget anything. That's exactly what I did. I was talking so fast. And so I sat down. I'm like, oh, I was sweating. I was drenched, the whole bit. And when the bell rang to dismiss class, Mr. Jordan said, hey, Bobbi, can you stick around for a couple minutes? And I thought, oh, good Lord, he's going to tell me not to come back. That's how bad it was.
My first and last speech ever.
Ever, right there. And but he's like, have you ever considered joining the speech and debate team? And I remember I just looked at him and I said, did you leave the room when I was speaking? And I said, because I was a train wreck. And he said, yeah, it wasn't very good. But he said, you've got potential. And he said, I think with your potential, your work ethic, and he said, my coaching, he said, I think you can compete and you can do really well as a speaker.
I mean, you did rattle off an 8-minute speech in 5 minutes and 20 seconds. So
that's more of an auctioneer skill.
Most impressive.
Yeah. So that's I think when I fell in love with it, because he worked, it wasn't like he just said, hey, I really believe in you. He worked with me. He helped me understand what are my strengths. And I did have strengths. I just, I had some gaps I had to, work on. But I went on and I actually competed. I did well. I won tournaments. And that's when I fell in love with coaching, because I experienced it for myself, how powerful that can be when someone can help you in that way. And the path I took to it, no matter what job I ever had, I loved developing people. I loved helping people become better, whatever they were trying to do. And so then my undergrad was in human performance improvement. And that's about how do you help people change and how do you help them grow? It had a strong learning component to it.
Is that an actual court? Because I know we can create our own degrees now, right? And put their classes together for, and a thing. Did you do that, or was that actually offered there?
It was kind of a combination of it at the time. And this was a while ago, but what it really composed of was a lot of classes in a ton of psychology classes, lots of psychology classes, lots of classes in adult learning. So how do adults learn? A lot of leadership type classes, those types of things. So, yeah.
So can we teach old dogs new tricks?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If the dog wants to learn.
How do adults learn? I mean, I know like early education is completely
different
set of its own, right? And once you break that age barrier, it all becomes, a standard learning. But once we're stuck in our ways, let's
okay. So it's a great question.
How do we get people to change then?
Okay. So first of all, when you're working with adults, you always want to start with what they already know, right? You always want to meet them where they are, because it's a way easier if you can build on knowledge that they have. So, because it's like they've already got scaffolding in place. So you start there. Now that is very different though than how do you get someone to change, right? Because if someone wants to change, that's a very different thing than someone who is resistant to change. So those are very, very different things, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. I feel like the second option is completely futile.
It can be.
You're not gonna change anybody unless they want to change themselves, right? That's just
Right.
rule number one. Right.
That's rule number one. And so for years, I taught sales managers how to become coaches for their team. So, because here's the thing: if you're in sales, a lot of times you're promoted because you're a great salesperson. You have a certain set of skills, and then you become a sales manager, and you think it's a promotion, but it's really a whole new career because now you have to coach people, and they're like, "I don't know how to coach people. I know how to sell." And the thing is, when someone doesn't want to change, what you have to try to do is work on their motivation, their desire to change. So, what's in it for them? Why would it be in their best interest? That type of thing. Because without that, you're right, man. If someone doesn't want to change, it's like trying to coach a brick wall. And I'm a pretty good coach, and I can't coach a brick wall.
Brick wall, still a brick wall.
That's right. That's right. So you got to work on the desire, the motivation. They always call it the will versus the skill. Skill is easy. Will's harder.
I feel like it'd be a lot easier to talk a wooden house into becoming a brick house, but
It could be.
Seems like an upgrade, fire safety and all.
That's right.
Just, it'd be hard to convince the brick to become a wooden house.
A wooden
but I feel like talking the wood house into becoming a brick house.
Yep. Very hard to do.
Might be a little more enticing,
That's right.
I don't have a lot of things that I can sell to the brick to be like,
Mm-mm. No. And
you want to be straw? No, I don't.
I don't want to be straw. Don't want to go down that route. None of that. Yeah.
I'm already brick. Maybe upgrade me to steel.
Yeah. Maybe some nice new features out front. I don't know.
But we do need to find, a motivation.
Yeah.
A carrot at the end of the stick.
Right.
For them to look out for.
And here's the other thing too, is sometimes one of the things I saw many, many times is someone who is a top performer, right? They were resistant to change. Like, let's say that the company's they were going to a different type of methodology, whatever it might be. They were often resistant to change because they were already crushing it with what they were doing. Why would they want to change?
Don't fix it.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's
why are we fixing the broken thing? It's not broken.
It's not broken.
It's fine.
What I'm doing works. That's when it's tough, because if we've had success some way, why would we give it up?
Have you watched the Barney documentary?
No. What is this?
So, just a little quip from the Barney documentary, but so it's basically just all about Barney, how he came to be, and then how everyone hated him, and then how eventually he was bought up so they sold Barney. So the creator of Barney eventually sold Barney. Barney was just Barney all by himself, teaching kids, and it's very simple and straightforward, right?
Wow.
And it wasn't broke. Why would you fix it, right? Mm-hmm. But when it got purchased, that's what they did. They went in and set up a whole new way of Barney being, right? And added characters that didn't, and made the interactions dramatized instead of just what Barney was, right? And that literally tanked it, right? And so sometimes adding new things, or people have good ideas that, if you are the leader in your position and some other company comes in and wants to start changing stuff, it's not broken. Why are you trying to fix it? And then, sometimes maybe that person was right.
That's right. So
it's hard to tell at that level. At that level, it's, I imagine, very difficult to get anybody to change if, again, it's not broken. Why would I fix it?
Yeah.
And companies, I imagine, do that all the time. They would take over another company. They come in and they lay down all this bullshit that probably didn't, that was never there before. And you lose a lot of employees. And so, do you ever coach companies to maybe hold back on what they think is a good idea and maybe listen to the thing that they're taking over? Or, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I know exactly what you mean. Luckily, I didn't have to work very many times in that situation. But when that does happen, when a company comes in and they take over and they just start making changes, it is a recipe for disaster. Usually. because just what you're saying, it's like people, we don't even know we haven't even assessed what's working, what's not working. It's just, and sometimes it's because the new leader, this happened one time, they just were like, well, this is the way I like to do things. Okay, but you were from a different industry. It doesn't make sense what you're trying to do here. And sometimes it all depends on the maturity. I don't want to say maturity, the openness of the leader. Are they open to saying, maybe there's something I can learn. Maybe there's a different way of doing it that could also be viable. It's not just, it's not about creating mini-me's. Well, this is what I've done, so you should do it this way
which
too.
Is which is the best leaders are, our listeners and
that's right.
And creative with their team, right? They're not.
That's exactly.
They're part of their team, not complete, control of their team.
Yep. There's a big difference.
So how do we get those people at the top to realize that, to listen? Where's the carrot? What is the carrot that you hang out in front of somebody who already thinks they know all of it and is fully successful at it? Like,
yeah. That's why there's like a whole industry trying to do that, right? There are so many people trying to, and sometimes
can you teach humbleness? Humbleness to to have empathy. Yeah. Can you teach empathy to to a sociopath, right? Like,
yeah. See, you can teach empathy. Humility, I think, is harder. I think humility is a lot harder to teach. I think humility is something that you have to learn. I don't know if you can be taught humility. It's
kind of from your life lessons really bring you.
That's
humility, right.
That's right. Those bumps that throw you off the road, sometimes those teach you humility. Now, empathy, you can be taught empathy, but the problem
as like a structure,
as
or
a structure,
how to act, how to be perceived as empathetic, even if you're not actually necessarily empathetic.
The thing about empathy is, and here's where a lot of people struggle with it.
Serial killers.
Surprisingly enough, they might have empathy. That's why they're good at preying on people. That's the irony there. The problem with empathy, this is so bizarre, but so many times people who don't exhibit empathy towards others, they don't have any empathy towards themselves. They can't. Reyshan, I'm not kidding you. If you said to someone who doesn't extend empathy to others, if you say, "How are you feeling?" they can't tell you a feeling. They answer in good or bad. That's not a feeling. That's an evaluation of how we're feeling. But that's not a feeling. But if you try to get them to say, "I feel joy, I feel sadness, I feel I'm mourning, I'm grieving," they can't give you an emotion. So think about that. If you can't name what you're feeling, how in God's name
can you know what other people are feeling?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Touche.
Yeah.
People are a pain in the butt. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Some people, there's a country music song. Was it People Are Crazy? It's a great song. And it's like, people are crazy. And sometimes I just think about that. Yep, they can be. But I love them at the same time.
If we didn't all laugh, we would all go insane.
That's right. That's right.
Jimmy Buffett's my mom's favorite. She's a total parrot.
Nice.
And sometimes all you need is a cheeseburger, and I feel wonderful, excited.
Hey,
full.
A good cheeseburger, that solves a lot of problems right there.
It does. So, speaking of food, we'll roll into some of that for a minute.
Okay.
So you do love to cook.
I do love to cook.
Do you chef for the family on holidays? Do you work all day and come home and make dinner? What's your cooking schedule like?
Oh man, my husband and I love to cook together too. So this is one of our favorite. Yeah. So we cook every single day. We're way more apt to cook and to create special dinners than go out. Although now that we're here in Northwest Arkansas, there are a ton of good restaurants around us. So that's really cool. We're taking advantage of that. But yeah, like it used to be like on Thanksgiving, I'd have 30 people over and I loved that. I loved cooking for people that way. On On Christmas, the last two Christmases, I've taken on, beef Wellington, which has been amazing.
Oh yeah, nailing
Yeah.
it. Let's talk beef Wellington.
Oh God, I'm not that good at it, but all right.
So the biggest pain in the butt is usually just getting the stupid puff pastry right.
Yeah.
Have you found any little nicks and tips that within, like, because we've all seen Gordon Ramsay make the damn thing.
That's right.
He makes it look
so
wow.
easy.
That seems simple enough. And until you make your own, and you're like, what? That is not right. How
yeah.
did that,
What the? Yeah. Yeah. And that's the recipe I use, by the way. I'm like, hey, I'm going to tackle this.
You got
The scoring. Oh God, the first time. Yeah, the first time I scored it, it was way too deep. I'm like, okay, this is wrong. This is not supposed to look this way.
You're supposed to let out the steam, but not let the entire meat open up to the world, right? So is it just the scoring? Is that where we are? It's just literally the depth of the scoring is, it really makes the world of difference in that tiny centimeter.
Yeah. Yeah. Very delicate. That's why I learned. I'm like, it was funny because my husband, he's always very polite, but the first time I made it, he's like, and I could just see him looking at it. And it was like, and I said, yeah, that's not what the picture looks like. I'll say it for you.
But when you cut it open, still good.
It was good.
Still good.
It was still good.
I mean, no matter how ugly that thing turns out, it's, as long as
it's still good.
Overcook it, it's still good.
Yeah. 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 So I love cooking.
So, Dijon mustard rub on the inside of that thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Straight up Gordon Ramsay style, huh? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Except here's something that's tricky for me. Maybe I've got a recommendation. Believe it or not, I am allergic to mushrooms, so I can't use So I've gotten creative. I've used like caramelized onions in place of the mushrooms.
Oh, that could be good.
I thought about I'm thinking maybe zucchini could work, but and the funny thing about the mushrooms, it's not all. That's what I was afraid of with the zucchini. Yeah. Always tried the caramelized. Yeah. But I can't have
caramelized onions. Yeah. I mean, that seems like the simplest fix to the mushroom thing. Plus, it almost honestly sounds better.
Yeah. So that's what I've done. I had to get creative.
I prefer like a sauteed onion sauce, like with my steak, if I'm gonna have like a steak. And the mushrooms is all right, but I prefer the onion.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry you can't have the mushrooms, but it is good with the onions, though, right?
It's really good. It's really good. Yeah. And my doctor told me one time.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, with the mushrooms. Because he's like, my doctor's like, it's probably not all types of mushrooms. It's probably just some. And I'm like, well, how would I figure out? And he's like, eat them and see which ones make you sick. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I've got other things to do with my time.
Or maybe like a cashew and onions like base, grind it up real fine.
Yeah. I like that idea.
Bring out the nutty flavor of the mushrooms with maybe the sauteed onions as well.
I like that. Yeah. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, let me know how it was. Maybe I will too. Writing that down.
That's a good idea. Love it.
So where did your love for cooking come from? Was your grandma, your parents? My grandfather was the cook.
Yeah, my grandmother, no, was not the case. But my dad, it came from my dad. He was in the Navy, way back in the 50s, and he had the option of being in the bakery or or cooking. And he spent a week in the bakery, and he's like, hell no. It's hot. It's no fun. So then
flour everywhere.
There's flour everywhere. You're on a ship. It's hot. You're in, there's no air conditioning. So yeah, he ended up running, like he was one of the main cooks, and he ended up running the whole thing. And he was the one that taught me how to cook. And my dad, he was one of those people that what he really taught me about cooking more than any specific recipe is that you cook not to put food on the table. You cook to show that you care and that you love. And everything he cooked was with love. Like and my dad was a big burly, like he was a boxer when he was in the Navy. He worked construction projects. He was a superintendent. But and on the weekends, he'd be in the kitchen, he'd be cooking, and he'd be singing to the radio. And it was like, oh my God, he just loved it. And I think that's where my love of cooking comes from.
Oh, that's a lovely story.
Yeah. And whenever like I was sick as a kid, he'd always make me my favorite meals. Or, like if I won something, he'd make me my favorite meal. So it was food. Food was a celebration. It was just how you show that you care. That's what. Now my mom was
his
decent.
love language.
Yeah, that's what it was. What my mom would cook during the week until I was old enough to cook. I started cooking when I was in the 4th grade because mom did not like to cook. So I took it over.
You're like, Mom, you're not doing it right. Just let me do it. No. That's not how Dad does it.
She would rather she loved being outside, like mowing the grass, pulling weeds, and I'm like, that's perfect because I don't like doing that. I'll cook any day.
Yeah. I cook. My wife does not cook, but she does the dishes. So.
Oh, that's nice. That's a good way to divide it up.
It's fair. Though every once in a while, I wouldn't mind waking up to breakfast, but we can all dream.
Yeah.
It's a funny story. She did make me 3 meals one day. There was one day in the last 10 years she made me 3 meals, and I had just had my first hip surgery.
Oh,
I have 2 hip replacements.
Ouch.
And on that day, the first day I came home, she made me breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Wow! On that first day.
And that was it.
That was it. I'm really stubborn. I'm a pain in the ass in the kitchen. Even if there's someone who can cook in my kitchen is making me dinner, I have to literally leave the entire area, or else I'm just nitpicky, and I'm well, you should do it that way, or you could do it that. Or, why are you doing? Oh, that's not how you cut that. No, just walk away. Let them do their thing.
That's right. I would think that'd be one of the hardest parts about being a chef. Because it's people can't cook for you because
I mean, I'm not a chef, but I know when you're doing it wrong.
Okay.
That's, oh no, oh boy.
Don't do that.
Or particularly if you're at someone else's house and they're making dinner and you walk into their kitchen and you're just turn around and walk away. Just turn around and walk away.
I don't want to see it.
They got a paring knife and they're dicing the onion and you're like,
oh no.
Oh, you're making it so much harder than it has to be. Why are you? Can I show you real quick?
Wrong tool.
Yep. You have a bigger knife?
And one that's been sharpened? Maybe.
Possibly.
God. Oh my goodness.
So I make all the food in my house. So just
I can understand why. See, it's funny you mentioned that because it used to be that I did all the cooking, and then this was 2003. I got really sick. I mean, and by really sick, collapsed, nearly died. And it took a long time to recover. Yeah. And I remember it was we were a couple weeks into my illness, and our bedroom was upstairs, and Rick, he was my boyfriend then, now husband, he brought me the house phone. This is when you actually had a landline and cell phone. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, we can't keep eating grilled cheese and spaghetti and hamburgers because you could do those 3 things. And he's like,
that's my wife's favorite foods.
Hey, it's easy to do, right? And he's like, so you're going to walk me through how I can cook something else. So he was on the cell phone downstairs. I was lying in bed. I'm on the house phone, and I'm teaching him how to cook. I think it was chicken. It was oven roasted sesame chicken. And it was okay. And he'd call me and he'd be like, what am I supposed to do with this chicken again? We had so much
I'm just
fun.
coming downstairs. I'm coming downstairs.
It'd be easier. It wasn't an option. So that's how we learned to cook, via the phone when I was upstairs, too sick to get out of bed.
That's fun. I do that.
Oh my God.
But my wife will be like, I'm going to make spaghetti. I'm going to make spaghetti. I'm going to do it. Okay. And she can make spaghetti. It's one of the few things that she can actually make by herself. But if she's making anything, I'll be in the living room, right? We have an open kitchen at the living room. And so I'm sitting there, I'm on the computer working or whatever, and she'll just be asking me, do you think the potatoes are done?
No.
Well, I don't know. Have you
Have to check.
have you checked them? Well, I want you to check them. Okay. She's just
That's
very
funny.
concerned that she's going to mess it up, so.
I can
So how do I
understand.
change? Stop being such an overlord in the kitchen. How does this? How do I accept or desire the need to let others do their own thing?
Well, if you don't have the desire, you've already answered your own question, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have the desire. I try. I have the desire to allow. It's just, yeah, I have to just leave the room. I just gotta just leave the room. That's
Leave the
only answer.
room.
Yeah, no.
That's probably the easiest, because otherwise it's going to show, right? You're going to be like sitting there. It's going to cause all this tension and stress and anxiety.
Oh, life coached me through life. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have like a story about like one of the most like, I don't know, either heartwarming, somebody who came to you that just really needed help, and you were able to actually, set them on a new path, and it just blew your mind even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, heartwarming, but the story that came to mind instantly, someone I recently worked with, he's a manager that I worked with originally more than 10 years ago. And we reconnected. It was in the spring of this year. And we were talking, and I'm like, you don't seem like your old self. And he goes, I'm just struggling. He's like, I feel like I'm negative all the time. I feel like the sky's always falling. He said, I kind of feel like I'm buckling under the pressure. And he said, I don't even have energy left over at the end of the day. Like, he goes, I don't go out with my wife anymore. He said, I'm just trying to find time with energy to spend with my kids. And it bothered me because I'm like, this guy was always so vibrant and energetic. And so there's a mental fitness program, and it's how you build your mental fitness, not mental health, but mental fitness, so it's in mental fitness is our capacity to respond to life's challenges and opportunities with a positive mindset versus a negative, neutral, or stressed mindset. And what's important about that is when we're in a positive mindset, that's when we have access to our brain's best resources. And that's based on neuroscience. And so he went through the program with us. And after the first 2 weeks, he's like, I feel like my old self again. He said, I feel like I'm happy again. I'm more creative again. After 3 weeks, his kids came to him and said, Dad, what's up? You're happy again. And they're like, they enjoyed spending time together again. The kids didn't want to go back to school at the end of the summer. The parents didn't want the kids to go because they were having so much fun. And he's like, this has changed my life. And I'm like, that's cool. That's one of the reasons I do what I do, because what's better than that?
I always equate that to being childlike again. So whenever, whenever life is just like, oh, I'm just stupid, don't want to deal with this dumb thing. Like, why is the world stupid?
Yeah.
Because when you were a kid, everything was magical. You were so creative. You had all you wanted to do, right? Like, at least I was anyway.
Oh yeah.
And so when I find myself in ruts, and when I feel the best is when I'm walking around and I have that childlike energy and that childlike desire to create and do and make stuff and, be a part of the world. And it's just, as kids, we don't have that negative kind of cynical look at the world. And if we can lose that cynicism and that baggage and just find that inner child that's just excited to like be here and meet people and do stuff, and then life's easier.
It's way
right?
easier. It's perfect what you're saying. It's funny because when we started working together, I said, what would be the outcome? Like, how would you want to feel at the end? And he said, I want to feel like I did when I was a kid on the last day of school. Remember that feeling? Last day of school is like, woohoo! Like, let's have some fun.
Possibility, spring. I'm not going to do whatever I want.
And it was so exciting. But what you're saying there is absolutely true. Think about the sense of wonder, the sense of curiosity, the way that we explored as kids. But here's the thing. How much were we in our own head when we were a kid? most of us weren't in our own head telling ourselves, you're a loser, you're too fat, you're too thin, you're whatever. We were just in the moment, and we lose that as we get older. And but we can gain that back. We can learn how to quiet all that chatter, that noise in our head. And that's one of the things that it really keeps us stuck.
We spend way too much time thinking about the past or the future and not living in the now, because the now is all you really have. There is no other time. This is it. This is right now. That's it. This is all you got right now. Right now.
Yep.
Again, your decisions, your choices that you're making right now, those are the only ones that matter. Right?
Yep.
So be aware, be present, and make better decisions in the now. Because if you're mad at yourself, it's because of a decision you made prior, which led to this. And now you're here, so you can worry about the decision you made back then, which isn't going to do you any fucking good. Or you can be right now and try to make a better decision now, so that later, when you look back here, you'll be like, "Oh, thank God I did that," and you won't worry.
That's right, because we keep ourselves in that kind of endless loop. And even something as simple as when I take the dogs for the walk. I've got 2 dogs. It's called Moose. You may have seen him.
Me too.
No way.
Sugar and Bones.
Oh man, Sugar and Bones. I love it. Yeah, I got Moose and Jackson. And so I take them for a walk, and it's like, I'm never talking on the phone. I don't listen to music when I take them because I want to be present with them, for the craziness that they do, because one day they're going to be older. We recently lost a dog a year and a half ago. And every time you want that time back,
Oh yeah.
And you don't get it.
Like I'll lay with my dogs and I'll get sad because I'm like, one day I'm going to have to look back and remember this moment.
That's right.
And and I'm like, hold on, just enjoy this. This is the now. This is right now.
now.
This is when of course you're going to look back and remember this, but like, don't worry about that right now because right now you're just snuggling and loving, right? And just be snuggling and loving because you're distracting yourself from the actual snuggling and loving by worrying about what's going to happen in the future. I'll be a mess.
Oh man, when we lost Riley, oh my God, I was a complete mess. And then, but you know what? Then we got new dogs because it's like never to replace Riley because you can't replace him. But it was like I need some place to pour my love into, and they needed a home. And but what you're just
saying helping, you're helping them. You're there for their life is the best life that you can give them, right?
That's right.
And so, one passes away, there's another one out there that needs a good life, and damn good dog dad, so might as well give them the opportunity to be there, right?
That's right. I mean, but you know what you were saying there too about just enjoy the snuggling or that moment. It's so true. And yet what happiness researchers, part of what they've found is that people, when they experience happiness, they immediately think, they want to analyze it. They're going to try to break it down. Well, why is this making me happy? And then you know what happens? We're no longer happy. We just took ourselves out of that moment. It's like
stop overthinking it.
Stop overthinking it. But that's way easier to say than to execute for most people.
I mean, it's way all easier. We're perpetually talking to ourselves, right? So we don't even know that we're perpetually talking to ourselves because that's how much we think we're just thinking, right? But really, you're perpetually talking to yourself. You're perpetually telling yourself what to do, or what not to do, right?
Yep.
And unless, of course, you're talking to someone else and you're telling them what to do or not to do.
But that's a whole nother story.
That's a whole nother story. Oh man, this has been a great little conversation. So do you have one little piece of advice that, we just gave a whole bunch of little pieces of advice, but I just want to say that when your dogs do pass, we are the sad ones. They are fine. When anybody passes, we are the sad ones. They are fine. We're so upset that people are gone, right? And it's just, death doesn't bother me. I celebrate death. I think death,
really,
you're born, you die. It's just part of life. Yeah, it
is part of life.
Death is a fine thing. The problem with death is the people who are left here to mourn it, right? Otherwise, it's literally the most natural thing in the world.
But boy, it's hard. For those left
It's hard.
behind.
It's for us left behind. And if we understand that it's really just us being poor, pitiful me about a thing that happened to somebody else, it's not about us. We make it about us, right? Because we want to be sad. We want to feel emotions. We want all of those things, even though we say we don't. We do. Like when my dogs pass, I know they're fine. I know it's so they had a good life. They, it's totally fine. But I will still cry like a little bitch every morning when I wake up, knowing that they're not there. Right,
because it hurts,
and that's on me. That's me being
you.
selfish that they're not there. It's me missing them loving on me, right? And yeah, go get another.
How
dog.
can you not miss them?
Yeah, you can't. But there's no reason to really be sad about it because again, it's just us making that, right?
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's hard when you lose someone. It really is.
But they're on the Rainbow Bridge. They're fine.
That's right. It's like, oh, but I miss them, and you think about all the cute things that they do, and but you're right. I mean, like with Riley, when we got him as a rescue, he was 5. He'd been abused. Took me a year to be able to touch him on the nose because he'd flinched so bad. Yeah, and he passed when he was 13, and he had a great life with us, and that's what I really focused on, how the life that he had, and the life we had. And well, here's the other part of it. Would I ever trade having the dog or the cat, whatever it was, to prevent that pain? No, because then you'd miss all the memories. Yeah. You'd miss all that good time, all that companionship, all the memories. So I'd never do that exchange. A friend of mine says, when you get a dog, you've just signed a contract to have your heart broken. Yeah, because it's going to happen. Yep, so we do it.
Enjoy the now. Snuggle.
Enjoy the now. Stop worrying about it.
It's literally all you got. Be happy now.
Yeah.
Look around. Life isn't actually that bad.
No, it's so good. There's so much to celebrate.
And it's all relative. Like it's all relative. So be happy in your life. Because that's right. The one you got.
And don't compare. For crying out loud, don't compare it to what someone else is doing.
No, and go out and treat all the humans like they're your dog, because that's that's all you can do is treat everybody around you the best that you can possibly treat them, which in turn makes you the best you that you can be.
That's right. And sometimes that's just little things, making eye contact with someone, saying hello at the grocery store, holding the door for somebody. It can be these little tiny things that just make someone's day.
Oh, you'll like this story. So I do that. I was at the store and I was walking in. My dogs are in the car. We have a Tesla, so they're in dog mode. People often, I will get like messages over the loudspeaker of the grocery store. They'll be like, there's 2 dogs in a gray Tesla with the windows up. They're on dog mode, guys. They're fine. 72 degrees and their owner will be back soon. But I was in the parking lot.
They're okay.
And I was walking up to the store and there was this dog running around the parking lot. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He almost got hit by this car. And I look over and there's this little old lady like over by the fence. There's like houses that line the thing in another little street. And she's like got a cane. Like she is old. It's like she's barely moving. And she's like, she starts yelling, buddy, buddy. And like this dog is not listening to her.
No.
And so the dog won't like let me pick him up or anything. So I just like, I like corral him over to her. And I'm like, where do you live? You're like, right. She's like, I just right over there. He got out of the fence and I hurt my back and I can't really get him. My husband's in the hospital. And I'm like, oh geez.
Oh no.
But I finally I'm like tapping her like, look, I'm gonna get your mom. Like, you better come protect her.
Oh.
He finally like comes over close enough to like she got a hold of him, but she couldn't pick him up. But he let me pick her up, and I like walked him back to her house and put them both inside. Wow. But I was like, I was about to walk in the store, and I'm just like, I can't. What is happening?
You can't
leave that there. No. So
no.
Help little
Thank
old lady
God you helped her.
Yeah,
that's great.
Sweet. I was like,
man.
The gate. She's like, I didn't know the gate was open. Well, it's closed.
So I always check. Always check. Good for you though. Thank God you were there to help her. Poor woman. Can you imagine how distraught she would have been?
Right. I mean, I hope somebody else would eventually come. But that dog almost got hit like 2 or 3 times. Like he was like, and I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, I couldn't.
Dude, you can't be in this parking lot.
No. Oh my God. Wow.
Anyway, where you want to tell me where I can follow you, where we can seek you out to flourish our lives?
Yeah. So best place, website, just bobbikahler.com. I'm also really active on LinkedIn. I post a lot of content there, helping people to get unstuck, find more options, and move forward faster. That's what my content is all about. So if people want to follow me there, I post very frequently. And then, of course, the podcast.
Unyielded, thriving no matter what.
That is right.
All those links are in the description if you want to go check out Bobbi. And totally to go check out her podcast, because this lady is fun and insightful. You should definitely go hang out with her more.
Thank you. I'd love that.
You're welcome. What are you having for dinner tonight?
We are having, it is a recipe by Bobby Flay, actually. Have you ever tried his meatloaf recipe?
No, but I made meatloaf the other night myself.
It's excellent. It's excellent. So that's what we're doing tonight. Nice fall evening meal.
Caramelized onions and that. I'm just guessing.
No, not in that. No.
All right.
I'll probably do some carrots and parsnips sauteed on the side.
There you go. I made sauteed carrots last night. I made meatloaf the night before.
There you go. Same wavelength.
Delicious. Awesome. Well, tell your husband we said hello, and I hope he enjoys the meatloaf as well.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone, go check out Bobbi Kahler and go watch my television show. Cheers.